Good evening, friends. Welcome to another edition of the Media Foundation IIC Media Dialogues. These are a series of panel discussions that we hold about once every quarter on an important issue related to the media or one that is of interest to the media. Before I proceed, let me introduce myself first. I am Shuma Raha, General Secretary of the Media Foundation. Today's topic is how will the recent state election results impact national politics? To discuss the subject, we have with us an outstanding panel comprising members of prominent regional parties and journalists who have a keen understanding of the shifts in the country's political scenario as they play out from election to election. Before I introduce our eminent panelists, please allow me to say a few words about the Media Foundation. The Media Foundation was set up in 1979 with the aim of upholding freedom of speech in the media. Its founding members were such doyens of Indian journalism as B.G. Verghese, Ajit Bhattacharjee, N.S. Jagannathan, Kuldeep Nair, Arun Shore, and among others. Apart from the media dialogues, the foundation holds the prestigious Chameli Devi Jain Award for an outstanding woman journalist of the year, and also the B.G. Verghese Memorial Lecture in memory of its founder, legendary journalist and free speech warrior, B.G. Verghese. And we are pleased to announce also that from next year, we will be giving out another journalism award called the Vishwanath Delhi Press Award for Fearless Journalism. The award is being instituted in memory of Vishwanath, the founder of Delhi Press magazines, who championed the principles of integrity, social responsibility, and public service in journalism. Delhi Press publishes The Caravan, Sarita, Champak, and many other magazines, as you know. The journalists among the audience, please look out for the notice for the two awards, which will be put out by the end of this month, and please do apply. Let me now introduce our panel to you, although most of them hardly need any introduction. Ms. Mahua Moitra is stuck in traffic, but she'll be here shortly. But you all know her, and I will introduce her at the end. We are very honored to have with us Ms. Priyanka Chaturvedi, Deputy Leader and National Spokesperson of the Shiv Sena UBT and the party's MP in the Rajya Sabha. Prior to this, she was also a National Spokesperson of the Indian National Congress. Nalin Mehta is Managing Editor, Money Control and Non-Resident Senior Fellow, Institute of South Asian Studies, National University of Singapore. He has previously been Group Consulting Editor, Network 18, Executive Editor, The Times of India Online, Managing Editor, India Today, and Consulting Editor, The Times of India. He's taught at universities in Australia, Singapore, and India, and is the author of several critically acclaimed books. Manoj Jha, the other politician on the panel, is a national spokesperson of the Rashtriya Jananta Dal and its MP in the Rajya Sabha. Before he joined politics, Jha was a professor at the Department of Social Work, University. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that, Bloomer. Okay, he still is. Okay, all right. Sorry about that. Moderating the panel today is Bharat Bhushan, a journalist of over 4 decades. He has held senior editorial positions in several Indian newspapers, including the Hindustan Times, the Telegraph, Indian Express, and the Times of India. Bharat is also the chairperson of the Media Foundation. And I'll also introduce Ms. Mahua Moitra, although she's not here right now. She's serving her second term as a Trinamool Congress Member of Parliament in the Lok Sabha, former investment banker. Moitra has made a name for herself as a fiery parliamentarian. And thank you very much. Over to you, Bharat.
So thank you, Shuma. You all know the subject of the discussion today. After the 2024 general election, you know that the BJP was in shock when it didn't get a majority. The Modi magic seemed to be dimming. Opposition seemed to be getting its act together for once. And there was retreat on several policy issues by the Modi government under opposition and public pressure. However, the state assembly elections, which took place after the general election, changed the situation somewhat. The Congress party, which thought Haryana was in its pocket, lost the state. The BJP did not manage to form a government in Jammu and Kashmir as they thought they would. But they did very well in Jammu, and Congress came a cropper in Jammu as well, winning only, I think, 1 seat. In Maharashtra, the BJP-led alliance won a handsome victory, while the Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi was left stunned by its defeat. And in Jharkhand, the illegal Bangladeshi immigration card did not work with tribal voters, they consolidated and defeated the BJP resoundingly. What we are going to discuss today is whether these election outcomes will impact the contours of national politics, and in which way will they shape national politics, especially the reversals faced by the opposition in Haryana and more particularly in Maharashtra, where they were expected to be a shoe-in for forming the next government. I don't think we should spend time on homilies like split ticket verdicts in state and central elections. We all know already that people vote differently in state and central elections. What we would expect, or I would at least expect from speakers, is a more forward-looking and a sort of a crystal-gazing approach on how these latest electoral outcomes might shape our national politics in the months and years ahead. The structure I suggest, welcome, Ms. Moitra. What I would suggest is that our speakers initially speak for about 5 minutes, and then we take a second round where they speak again for 2 or 3 minutes, answering some of the questions they may have for each other or I might have for them. And then we will have a discussion and take questions from the floor. So I would like to invite Priyanka Chaturvedi ji first. Priyanka ji, I have a suggestion, which is that, otherwise everybody will talk about the same thing. So if you could focus on how the BJP has reasserted itself in electoral politics and what implications does it have for Modi government's agenda. Because before the elections, these elections, they had started backtracking on some of these things. For example, the U-turn on lateral entry in the bureaucracy, because that had no caste reservation, so that was dropped. New pension scheme was modified. You had something called the unified pension scheme with assured income, which was not there earlier. The second draft broadcasting bill was withdrawn completely. The Waqf Amendment bill could not be pushed through, had to be sent to JPC. So my question to you is, will some of this retreat now be stemmed? Will the government now be emboldened to push through its agenda despite criticism of the opposition?
Firstly, thank you so much to Media Foundation for bringing us together and having a crystal gazing approach to what lies next for all of us. 2024 elections, yes, it was quite a game changer in the sense where the opposition got its act together. They painstakingly built an alliance which challenged the authority of the Bharatiya Jananta Party, and we successfully reduced them to 240, dependent on 2 regional parties again for their support. One is from Bihar and one is from Andhra Pradesh. And we felt at that point in time that, yes, there was a sense of confidence, sense of camaraderie, that we are going to now replicate the same cooperation and win the state elections that were upcoming. Yes, they retreated from a few bills, and very strategically they also regrouped, regathered, re-energized their forces and went into these state elections as a challenge that they had to overcome, a point that they had to prove. And this is something that has become pretty visible, that whenever Bharatiya Janata Party is forced to take a step backwards, they come back pushing harder with all their efforts and energy put together. They go through, the roadmap, the blueprint. Everyone puts their heads together and does it effectively. Unfortunately, we didn't see it happen with us as an opposition. We successfully managed them to take a break from whatever they were proposing, and also for them to rethink, which wouldn't have been the case earlier, where there was single-party majority and they were pushing through a lot of agenda which suited their ideological agenda. With Haryana, with the Congress party losing Haryana, yes, it was a setback. We also need to look at the reasons that could have caused it. One was not being able to get an alliance together, accommodate its small alliances, like whether it is the Samajwadi Party or whether it was the Aam Aadmi Party at that point in time, which was asking for 2 odd seats or 3 odd seats, and then having to go it alone and probably creating a vote split. That was one massive reason I see that perhaps Haryana could have turned around, but it did not. Then comes Maharashtra. Of course, they were in shock with the results that came in the Lok Sabha. While they were in shock, we were in awe that, yes, we can do this again in the assembly elections. What we did not realize is that, like I said, they regroup, re-energize, they rework their strategy, they're very flexible with that, and they managed to push their cadre to the limits to be able to re-win a mandate which was perhaps a mandate which was up for them to lose. 3-4 factors, because I'm still in shock myself. I don't know what could be the reasons of a washout. We were, till the end, we believed that it was a very close fight. I personally addressed about 30 Jansabhas, and I did not see the Modi factor, the Devendra Fadnavis factor, the Ladki Behan factor. There was, in fact, there was a lot of anger with regards to the high prices, the inflation, and Ladki Behan wasn't doing good enough. It came after a Lok Sabha loss. So those were a few things which I personally felt that it could be up for a fight, but it will not be a washout for the opposition. 120, 130 seats either way. And the other party forms a government, the other alliance forms a government with 150 odd seats. But this was clearly something that we, for the forthcoming elections, we would need to look at. However, when you talk about the national implications, of course it's going to have national implications in the sense the Rajya Sabha nominations. It will change the map for how the Rajya Sabha looks now with BJP more confident, more assertive. That they might just find I think they are closer to majority now in the Rajya Sabha along with the alliances. So that was one big space where we were fighting and we were holding on. That is something that will change. In the Lok Sabha also, you'd see their alliances, especially the TDP and the JDU, being a little more cooperative rather than being assertive. Because there are times when you feel that BJP is on the back foot, they could have asserted themselves, but right now you see a BJP which is re-energized and they will get them to toe the line. So those are few changes that we see, and we are seeing that happen even now. The last 1 week, the parliament was a total washout. And it wasn't, I mean, while opposition was speaking up on the Adani issue, on the Sambhal issue, the Ajmer issue, however, it wasn't having much resonance, and they were the ones who were adjourning the House, instead of allowing us to kind of raise these issues. So those are a few things which I personally feel that in terms of setting up the national narrative, and again, the alliances coming together, and I hope this is off the record, but I can say that honestly, even the opposition, the rallies we are having together, the protests we are having together, we see two major parties not on board right now, even in our protests. And so a more accommodative approach from perhaps the National Party, which is leading the alliance, would be more helpful and would lead to more cooperation, a more cohesive narrative. These are my initial pointers, which I feel could add to the debate. And Manoj Jha is going to be facing an election this year, in the coming year. So he'd probably be able to give you a better idea on Bihar. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much, and thank you for keeping to the time. Before I go to the next speaker, please do not film these discussions on your mobiles. It's being filmed already. We'll put it on our site. Some of our speakers don't like being filmed on mobile, so please don't film them. Now I invite Manoj Jha. Manoj, what I would like you to address, you don't have to address it necessarily, but my request is that you address this. Do you think Shrill Hindutva will now occupy center stage? You see, after the success of Batenge to Katenge, Ek Hai To Safe Hai in Maharashtra, the charges of vote jihad in Maharashtra, Jharkhand and Jammu to polarize the voters. Would an overconfident BJP move towards fulfilling its Hindutva agenda more aggressively? And what might be that agenda, besides, let's say, the Waqf amendment being pushed through or introduction of what the Prime Minister now calls a secular civil code? What else do you see coming? And will they be more aggressive?
Thank you so much. Lot many questions. Hindutva is not simply a worry for opposition parties. It's a worry for the very existence of India. Opposition parties might disappear from India, but it still is a challenge which I can see the people, the friends who are sitting here, somebody from bureaucracy, somebody from journalism, somebody from academia and different other fields. They have worked towards making India a better place. So it's a worry not only for political parties. Political parties fight elections. So they don't mind at times to what the term I don't like, soft Hindutva. There is nothing called soft Hindutva. Hindutva is Hindutva. It can never be soft. So, that's something जो अपने दिल को खुश करने के लिए कि हम चलो these are the questions for every one of us. My second point in response to your query is, June 4 verdict made all of us very happy. But it had a message. Message not only for Mr. Modi and his party and his alliance partners. It had a message for all of us in the India bloc. I consider June 4, 2024 verdict as return of the collective in our Indian democracy. Return of the collective. Now, this collective thing, I have no qualms in saying that Mr. Modi understood it faster than all of us in the India bloc. Now, content analyze his speeches before 4th of June and after 4th of June. BJP in his speeches has disappeared. He talks about NDA. He never utters Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, whatever he does, a small inauguration or an oath taking in Maharashtra, he'll make sure Chandrababu and Nitish Kumar ji are there. Even as a decorative piece or a gamla, they need to be there. So this is what I mean, that the return of the collective has been understood by Mr. Modi and his strategist. Third, as I said, we are all here a worried lot. And our worry is not simply election. For instance, Bharat Bhushan ji, you said, ek hai to safe hai, katenge, batenge. This was most used in Jharkhand. Jharkhand was the lab. I was there. It was the lab. Knowing there is a huge tribal consolidation, we were worried. पता नहीं क्या होगा, पता नहीं क्या होगा, कहीं बहुत बड़े स्केल पे हार तो नहीं जाएंगे. But the scale of defeat in Maharashtra is the scale of victory in Jharkhand. Almost similar if you analyze in percentage terms. We contested 5 seats, won 4, lost by a margin of 800, the 5th seat in Jharkhand. So, I'm part of you, a worried lot, but worry has to be addressed not only in the electoral arena. Silence of our partners, our alliance partners, on crucial issues also hurts. What are you left with? Places of Worship Act is being flouted with overt or covert direction from the highest judiciary. And the judges are not speaking to the constitution, they are speaking to the God. और भगवान के पास वैसे ही बहुत अर्जियां प्रतिदिन लगती हैं, परीक्षा पास करवाने से लेकर नौकरी दिलवाने से लेकर कितनी सारी चीजें. अब उन अर्जियों में जुडिशियरी भी अपनी अर्जी दे रही. Why I'm saying this? We need to be very careful. This is not simply election issue. We'll win some, we'll lose some. हमारे साथ दिक्कत क्या, आखिरी 1 मिनट आई जस्ट, हम सब के साथ, आपके साथ भी है, एक विक्ट्री होती है ना, हम यूरेका मोमेंट में आ जाते हैं. पा लिया, अब गया, he's finished. No. There is lack of consistency, there is lack of coordination, there is absolute lack of coherence in terms of ideological commitment. पता ही नहीं है कौन क्या बोल रहा है. I'm also worried about Hindus in Bangladesh, but I'm equally worried about minorities in South Asia. क्योंकि सरहद, ये नफरत और घृणा को वीजा वगैरह ना चाहिए, पॉलिटिकल क्लियरेंस नहीं चाहिए, वो ऐसे ही ट्रैवल करता है. Can't we speak a language that India being the largest democracy should draw a bigger line in terms of treatment of its minorities? वहां हम बैलेंस करने में लग जाते हैं. कई सारी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज मुसलमान शब्द नहीं बोलती हैं. As if, I mean, I'll not take much time in the second round. मैं सिर्फ इसलिए कह रहा हूं, मुझे चुनाव के नतीजे दुखी करते हैं, परेशान होता हूं. महाराष्ट्र ने मुझे दुखी किया, इस स्केल की हार की मुझे उम्मीद नहीं थी. लेकिन झारखंड में इस स्केल की जीत की उम्मीद नहीं थी। और मैं इस तरह की थियरी नहीं मानता हूं कि झारखंड आपको दे के महाराष्ट्र ले लिया, ऐसे नहीं हुआ करता है। अगर कुछ हुआ है तो वो हर जगह हो रहा है, उसकी तहकीकात कीजिए। वो लड़ाई एक सेपरेट लड़ाई है, लेकिन आपको वैचारिकी में लड़ना होगा। Somehow we have lost the plot of fighting in the realm of ideology. That's all. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Now to Nalin Mehta. Nalin, yours is a slightly more difficult task. To you, I would like to address the following question. What do you think are the implications of these results for power balance within the India bloc? How will the relative weight of the constituents of the India bloc change after these election results? Will the Congress and to some extent NCP and the Shiv Sena UBT enjoy the same weight as earlier in the opposition bloc? And if not, what happens to their voice? Will their strength in Lok Sabha determine their voice, or also how they're performing elsewhere? And what will be the implication for opposition unity in parliament? Right. Already we see Trinamool and SP not joining the protests on Adani. They're saying there are other important issues. So is it likely that the opposition unity will start unraveling once they see what's happening in the rest of the country?
So for both these questions, I think just want to paraphrase by saying that, preface by saying that both Mahua and Priyanka are much more qualified than me to answer the India bloc question in particular.
They will answer from their perspective, you answer as a journalist.
And before I answer the question, I think I want to make a point to add to what Manoj was saying. On the Jharkhand issue, there's a lot of made of the Maharashtra result. In Jharkhand, the point you made that it was the exact opposite, right? So in Jharkhand, the BJP went down by 11% vote from just 3 months ago, 45% to 33%. JMM went up by 8.8%, Congress went down by 3%. And Jharkhand is a state where the BJP had also lost 3% vote share even in June.
हमारा नहीं काउंट किया।
जी आपका So my limited point is that actually if you talk to RSS and BJP guys, the RSS is actually far more worried about Jharkhand than it's celebrating Maharashtra because of the loss of the tribal vote. And that's why it has much larger implications, right, for Hindutva politics. And again, before I answer your question, I do think that after Haryana and Maharashtra, see, 3 months ago, it looked like the BJP was at the decline of BJP. It started, and the Congress was on the ascendant. 99 was looking like maybe 140. 240 was maybe looking like 140. I think these two results have shown us that, well, A, the clock is back to before 4th of June. B, the BJP has shown, and also I think it's possible to interpret that result now as not as a turning point, but as a momentary, as a point in time where there was a message for the BJP about arrogance and about not crossing its envelope and so on and so forth. But I think what is particularly significant in the last 3 months is that the BJP has shown an ability to course correct at multiple levels, which the opposition has not shown. And by that I mean on the narrative of the constitution is in danger and Dalits, right? They went very specifically on that. They got surprised by that until at least the 4th phase of the Lok Sabha election. By the time they figured out that this is going to mess with them, or it was too late. So this was a very important part of their ground mobilization in Maharashtra, specifically on that. On the Dalit question, the RSS and the BJP cadre, which was not that enthused in June, they came out much more. I think, also, by the way, this election is, I would hesitate to say the word post-Modi election, but I think it's important to make the point that in Haryana, the Prime Minister was not, while he did a few rallies, he wasn't as omnipotent as before. In Maharashtra, also he did a few rallies, but he was not in the campaign in the last week. He was actually overseas in that point of time. So this whole thing around, I think what it is showing is that there's a deeper strength to the BJP than beyond Modi, and although Modi still remains important and so on and so forth, but the BJP has a deeper strength which in the right circumstances, so it's not going to roll over, right? It's not like there'll be this, somebody said the Eureka moment. It's not going to roll over, right? It is what the Congress used to be, the dominant, in Rajni Kothari's terms, right? It is the dominant party, especially in North India. Two figures, strike rate of BJP in Maharashtra is 84% upwards. Congress is 19%. And that shows you a huge difference. You look at a few metrics in Maharashtra, specifically in seats where women voters were more than men voters, 43 seats. BJP won 24 of those. Congress won 15. Seats where the Congress was actually led in June. Assembly segments where, if you map the Lok Sabha to the assembly, where Congress was ahead. In those, there were 64. BJP bested them in 26 of those seats, right, in 3 months later. In direct BJP Congress contest, it was 43-27 out of 75 seats. In Maratha, I think, Priyanka, you talked about the Maratha question. The Maratha agitation from June 2023 onwards changed the nature of that contest, right? They pulled back. So it's a bit like Haryana, right, where there was a anti-Jat coalition or a Jat, right? But the BJP didn't really lose the Jat vote. It was like half and half, right? So it's not like it got wiped out in that. And it got the others. Here also, again, it basically won the majority of the Maratha seats, not all, but it's other OBC coalition won. You look at OBC dominant seats, you look at Kunbi seats, you look at Maratha dominant seats, BJP is won on every single vector. And that, I think, was also because of very ground level electioneering. I think the thing that stood out to me in this election was that the BJP fought a different campaign, but the Congress, NCP and Shiv Sena, or NCP Thackeray and Shiv Sena Pawar, fought the same campaign again. Right? So basically you were fighting the same campaign, this is my last election, it's for me, all of that. You can win on emotion once, you can't win every time. And the BJP changed the nature of its electioneering. So essentially you can't, they're much more adept or much more agile. That's the better word, yeah. Coming back to your question finally, I'm sorry for that wrong roundabout thing. So I think this is a problem for the India Alliance because this election, by the way, again, I'm going to take another side dive. This election, I think, is as important as the 2017 UP election. If you go back to 2017, the BJP was looking in trouble after reverses in Delhi, Bihar, all that. Nobody expected, and there was a COVID crisis, nobody expected the BJP to win UP the way they did. They had a straight hand till 2019 after that. You now have up till at least till the UP election of 2027, pretty much not much, right? Look at Bihar election, Delhi won't matter that much for national politics, it will matter for other things. Bihar, we'll see. This election is really important for its overall thing. And therefore, in the India Alliance, there is clearly going to be an issue. If you talk to any opposition leader across different parties, a lot of people who were thinking of doing things are now kind of going to step back. The Congress's negotiating ability goes down. You're already seeing Akhilesh Yadav talking about Congress to khatam hi ho gayi hai, right? And in the question of EVMs, for example, there is no common program or from the opposition parties. The Congress is pretty much ekla chalo rahe, I think, at the moment on some issues. On the questions like the Adani issue and others, irrespective of the merit or demerit of that, I don't think other parties are echoing that to the extent that the Congress would like. Certainly, Pawar is not. And it weakens the Congress hand. And also, and that's important because without or in the absence of a strong national party, which is the fulcrum of an pan-India alliance, any opposition alliance is going to, who's going to stitch it together? Who's going to be the fulcrum of that? Mamata wasn't part of the alliance 3 months ago. Bengal is the one state where in by-elections they've completely wiped out the BJP now in 6 by-elections. Will that mean they're going to cooperate more with the Congress? I don't think so. In Delhi, is AAP and Congress going to fight together? I don't think so. So, you have it's back to square one, I think.
Thank you. Now we have Mahua Moitra. Ms. Moitra, to you I'd like to ask, well, he said you should have answered the question on India Bloc. Feel free to address that as well. But do you think that these elections show that communalism plus freebies is the new winning formula in politics? And if so, what is the downside of it? So Hindutva plus freebies, butting it and cutting it, but also Ladki Bahan Yojana, also pension for people above 70. And when it comes to freebies, doesn't the incumbent party enjoy an inherent advantage in terms of flagship schemes, because they can start them both nationally as well as if they're incumbent in the state, they can do so in state? And what do competitive freebies do to the budgets of these states? And what signal does it send to, I mean, I know I don't normally make this argument, but to taxpayers, that the government wants, when I'm earning an income, they want my tax, but when I'm earning no income, I get nothing back from them. So if freebies were part of a structured social security scheme of the government, where you paid people according to their need, I'm not saying that those who paid more tax should get more, but if there was a social security scheme, people may not object to it. So you'll have, would you have people objecting to freebies on the one hand, and on the other hand, others lapping it up? That freebie schemes go completely haywire. My mother-in-law who lives in Lucknow, her maid comes and says, आंटी आप ये क्या दाल और चावल खाती हैं जो मेरे को फ्री में मिलता है, इससे अच्छी क्वालिटी का इतना मिलता है कि हम आपको बेच देंगे सस्ते में, मार्केट से कम में. So all that is also happening. So how can the opposition, which is increasingly not in power, going to match communalism, which you oppose, and freebies to the extent that the people who control the state pay?
It's a really bit of a very convoluted question. I do wish you had asked a sort of more pointed question. I kind of lost you along the way. But anyway, let's answer them one by one. On the question of freebies, I actually take great offense at the word. And, I have lived and worked in the West for a long time and have followed the Scandinavian economies very closely. And when you say that your mother-in-law is sitting there and the maid comes and says, "What are you eating? I'm eating better than that," I actually feel happy and proud. I feel happy, and I think it's time that we, as an aware, liberal, educated society, which have come from a colonial past and a very classist past, are used to thinking that the maid has no right to eat off our expense. I think since independence that we have not done a very good job at improving equality. And for me, I feel happy that if my maid were to come and say, "I'm getting better rice than this, Didi, you should get this," I actually think that's great. And frankly, that kind of distribution, I think, is something that all Indians, we talk about India and charity, but Indians are the least charitable of all. It has been philanthropy and charity in India as a percentage of wealth is the lowest, one among the lowest in the world. So I actually think that that's something I would personally feel happy at. I'm not sure about your mother-in-law, but I would feel happy at. I think that's something. But that's okay. That's. I just wanted to start with that. Second, when we look at, there is a concept in France called avantage acquis, which basically means that if you give something to somebody, they take it for granted that you will keep it forever, and it is very difficult for consecutive governments or anybody to take it away. So if you were to start, for example, a scheme that gave women 1,000 rupees a month, it is taken for granted that any government will comes in, can make 1,100 rupees a month, but they will never be able to take away that 1,000. And people understand that. This is something that we have seen the world over. If you think of, do freebies help you keep power? No. The three governments that stood out in terms of direct benefit programs and social security programs was the Naveen Patnaik government, the BJD government in Orissa, the Jagan Mohan Reddy government in Andhra Pradesh, and the BRS-TRS government in Telangana. They ran, as if you're just talking of Ladli Behan, for us, we give Lokhir Bhandar 1,000 rupees. I think in Maharashtra, Priyanka, if I'm not mistaken, it's 1,500 rupees. In Andhra Pradesh, it's something like 4,000 rupees. Even old age pensions. So all of these three governments, which led the way in terms of direct benefit handouts, were actually voted out. So once you give this to people, people stop using that fear that this will go away if I don't vote for you again. That fear, frankly, I have seen at a very grassroots level doesn't stay. Once you give it, they realize, for example, the BJP is not in power in Bengal. Has never been in power, don't even have a single panchayat. But the booths where we are giving 1,500 rupees to scheduled caste, scheduled tribe booths and 1,000 rupees, if I'm losing a scheduled caste booth, I'm losing it continuously, though we are paying more than we are paying in general booths. So that trend, if they are voting BJP, BJP is being able to give them nothing. They don't have the panchayat, they don't have an MLA, they don't have an MP. Everything they're getting from the state government. But what you said, the communalism factor, if something is stirring them, some feeling of insecurity, they are voting strictly along those lines. And that's what's happening. So I think, yes, the communalism factor is very scary. And this is something, as Manoj Ji said, it's not, people say, what is the opposition doing about it? And I think it's time that all of us in this room kind of realize it isn't the opposition's problem. Because we could be wiped out, Manoj Ji and I could be dead tomorrow or voted out of power. That's not the point. But India, if it has to thrive, this has to be a little more than that's the opposition's problem. Within the India alliance, I don't think it's a bad thing that people have divergent views within the India alliance. And I frankly think that the Lok Sabha elections were a message to both Mr. Modi as well as to the opposition. And that's a message that we've all taken forward. Assembly elections don't work quite the way as Lok Sabha elections. We've seen it over and over again. So just because they're down to 240 doesn't mean that the opposition will win every single state after that. It doesn't quite translate the same way. Again, for Jharkhand, I was very happy in terms of national politics. I believe, I could be wrong, that it was more important for us to win Jharkhand. It was exceedingly important. I think 27 out of 28 tribal seats, Manoj Ji, if I'm not mistaken, came to us meaning the India Alliance. And I think that dangerous rhetoric where Bangladeshis are coming in, where Ghuspeitias are coming in, this very Hindu-Muslim, I mean, if you saw that BJP ad, I don't know if any of you saw that ad. So that kind of direct attack, I think that the fact that it didn't get acceptance is important. And that the Lok Sabha results, and I don't think that the BJP and Mr. Modi after the Lok Sabha, even with the win in Haryana, even with the win in Maharashtra, has quite come back to their old chappan in chhati. I could be wrong. I see them in the Lok Sabha, their body language, their rhetoric, all of that is greatly, because if you remember before the Lok Sabha, they thought they were doing great. This rhetoric, this kaatenge ya baatenge batenge, all of this we've heard before. They thought it was working for them. They had really no way to tell that it wasn't working for them. Right? I'm not even sure that this worked for them in Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, it could well be that all of the parties have been in bed with each other so many times that nobody quite knew what to do. Honestly, that could be something. It probably had nothing to do with katenge ya batenge. Because I think that this katenge ya batenge narrative, the BJP lost out on it in the Lok Sabha. I'm not quite sure that that was what worked for them in Maharashtra. As far as the India Alliance is concerned, as long as we are not the BJP, we are not a bunch of fascist parties coming together and that love of fascism is going to unite us. No, it's not. It's not. And we are different. And as long as we have the same ideology, which I think all of us, Manojji's party, my party, Priyanka's party have, and that is that we must stick to basic constitutional principles. It's about first principles. And as long as we're on the same page there, I do think that, yeah, it'll be an uphill task, but I do think we're on the right track. And the Lok Sabha elections have shown us that the BJP's rhetoric is quite removed from their reality at times. Even they don't know. So if we've been blindsided, they've also been blindsided. So I think we just need to keep the ideology straight and work along first principles. And I think that we're on the right track. A little few hiccups here and there, but we're on the right track.
Okay, thank you. You misinterpreted my example. I'm not unhappy if the maids eat well. I was merely saying that you don't assess who requires how much. It's not according to people's needs, but let that be. Now we'll have the second round. Let me begin by asking Priyanka ji, why is the BJP more successful than the opposition in steering the national discourse? Or is that an advantage that an incumbent party always enjoys because they control the media, they can influence people, etc.? Or are there a lot of other reasons? Do they just have a better discourse and the opposition doesn't have a coherent one?
No, I disagree with that. They do not have a better discourse. They are able to amplify it because they all work like machines. They don't have a mind of their own. I'm sorry to say that. If Mr. Modi enters the parliament, Modi, no right-minded person would do that, right? Yeah. So they are encouraged to believe that if we say the same thing again and again and again, people start to believe that's a reality. So that narrative definitely, obviously the media, the love of media for Mr. Modi, the fear of Mr. Modi is something which is driving them. And even the corporates, now even the corporates are happy with them because corporate tax is low. They are, in fact, individual taxpayers paying more money as compared to corporates. So they are okay with this. It has become a situation where every citizen is saying, okay, mera ghar to chal raha hai na. Why should I bother about what is happening to the rest of the society, community, country? That will come later. Little do they realize that that fire will singe them too, sooner or later. So this narrative about they are building a better narrative, I think is a wrong idea to have in our heads. We have to challenge this narrative. Even if we are a room full of 100 people, we must continue to challenge and speak our minds. They are actively working to make us voiceless. And not just the opposition. Every time we are silenced, please understand many people are being silenced. And that is the fear. And every time we have a new bill that is introduced, I'm part of the Standing Committee of IT and Communication. Every second bill that comes their way, that makes its way to the floor of the House, is usually something to disempower India's citizens. And that is what I say, that they are not building a better narrative. They are building a narrative which is marketable because you have Mr. Modi who communicates so-called effectively. He sends some so-called message of batenge to katenge to a vast majority which starts to believe, haan, hum kat jayenge. 80% of India's population is of Hindus. We have been safe until now. What is driving us towards being unsafe suddenly is that fear that they're selling. So this is what I believe, that because, like Mahua said, we are not celebrating fascism. The India Alliance has come together to celebrate democracy. We all have different ideas. We have different ways of approaching it. But we all believe that if our constitutional principles are denied to us and our democracy doesn't prevail, it may not prevail in the parliament soon, it may not prevail in the streets, in your homes, everywhere. So again, now in terms of narrative, we end up talking about whatever the media is feeding to us or whatever you're hearing in our social circles, but that definitely is not the narrative of the larger population. What we need to understand is we need to make a more appealing idea to return back to this belief that आप अपने घर में खुश हो, हम अपने घर में खुश हैं, तो हम collectively खुश रहेंगे. You cannot, you're selling the fear कि आप खुश रहो क्योंकि ये आपको खुश नहीं देखना चाहते हैं. That is what is happening. So obviously, India Alliance needs to get its act together. No denying that. We need to win the narrative. How do we win the narrative is having a more appealing idea of what we are bringing to the table, which definitely will be democracy and constitutional principles.
Thank you. Manoj Ji, a point was made about the opposition not being as agile as the BJP when it comes to elections. Now, why is the opposition not agile? Mostly your regional parties, you should have a better understanding of your regions and the issues there, and adapt your campaigning according to the needs of the people locally, and have a campaign strategy based on what is locally required, rather than a gentleman going around with the constitution everywhere and sort of thinking that this will work again.
What do you mean by agile?
By agile, I mean to be able to change your strategy given the situation in a particular state.
No, we have been confronting a question. आपके पास मोदी की तरह का कौन है? साहब हमें नहीं चाहिए.
I have not asked
No,
that
no,
question.
you have not asked it. Please don't mind. I'm just saying that this is the kind of question we have been facing. तुम्हारे पास मोदी की तरह का कौन है? हमें नहीं चाहिए भैया. अगर वही चाहिए होता तो अलग क्यों होते? खैर, anyway. My limited observation in this round is you have a point, as all my panelists, including you, have underlined. You also mentioned something fulcrum. Nalin. 1977, Nalin, what was the fulcrum? JP as an individual? What kind of political parties? Janasangh, Socialists, Swatantra, all kinds of political parties came together. Don't go by what was the outcome of 77. The process of 77 is very important. Nobody knew who is going to be the Prime Minister. Yet we achieved it. Now, the third issue. You also asked something to Priyanka. I'm tempted to respond.
do.
National, what did you say? National?
Narrative.
National. What is nation all about? I'm worried that a party which is fundamentally anti-national is selling that nationalist discourse. All the actions of BJP, all the planning of BJP and their partners now goes against the ethos of this nation. And yes, we don't have the dominant media. I'm happy that I'm not sharing this with the dominant media. I'm sharing this, sorry to say, with the fringe media. A fringe which is loved by so many people. Now, one thing I'll admit. Holding constitution in your hand and showing it is the easiest task. But constitution has values like freedom, dignity, fraternity, equality. You have to vernacularize it. Otherwise, what it means, holding the book, सबसे आसान काम है, एक हाथ चाहिए, एक किताब चाहिए. We have failed to communicate it in vernaculars. How many of us have been able to consistently talk about the fact that the people who get down to, आजकल digging का time चल रहा है. People are digging everywhere. Why don't you dig the sewer and find why from a particular caste people die every hour in different parts of India? They are simply statistics. आज 3 मरे, 4 मरे, 5 मरे, क्योंकि वो सब एक समुदाय से आते हैं और वो हमारी सोच के फ्रिंज पे. तो अगर डिग्निटी की बात होगी, आप कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को ऐसे ट्रांसलेट करो. किताब हाथ में उठाने से ना कुछ दिन के बाद वो रिचुअल हो जाता है, और वो रिचुअल इस देश को बहुत पसंद नहीं है. किसी भी तरह का रिचुअल, चाहे ये किताब वाली हो या भैंस मंगलसूत्र मुजरा वाली हो, आप बार बार कहिएगा, इट लूजेज इट्स शीन. So my essential point is, limited one, is that we need to communicate in the vernaculars. When I mean in vernaculars, I mean these lofty ideals of freedom, justice, equality, fraternity. What is fraternity? You can't dig Sambhal mosque and aspire for fraternity. It goes against the grain. तो ये सारी चीजें हम इसको ऐसे नहीं समझा पा रहे. ये हमारी असफलता है. मैं किसी खास पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को नहीं कह रहा हूं, क्योंकि गलतियां कभी भी इंडिविजुअल नहीं होती हैं, कलेक्टिव होती हैं. आज बहुत आसान है कि हम पोस्टमार्टम करके कहें कि लार्जेस्ट पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को ये करना चाहिए था, वो करना चाहिए था, लेकिन हम साथ में तो थे. डिड वी कम्युनिकेटेड? नो. तो सबसे आसान है कि जब मौत हो गई तो लाश की पोस्टमार्टम करो. थैंक यू.
So let me just push you on this business of constitution. How is it that during the general election you were able to translate it into vernacular and people were able to understand that if the BJP comes, the constitution is threatened, reservations will be threatened, and the Muslims and the Dalits consolidation took place of the voters?
I'll tell you.
But why did it not work during the state elections?
No.
Because you were not agile enough to see what was the issue that was important to people in Maharashtra or a part of Maharashtra or in Haryana or in parts of Haryana?
नहीं, भरत भूषण जी, मैं एक बात कहता हूँ, एक थोड़ा हाइफन रखिए. हाइफन, व्हाई आई एम एम्फसाइजिंग. इफ यू रिमेंबर लोकसभा इलेक्शन, Constitution was essentially spoken through the language of caste census and reservation. I'm raising a larger issue. Issues of dignity, fraternity, equality. We have not been. Now, only during the election, if it is done, people will not believe you. You have to do it 24/7. 24/7 inside the parliament, outside the parliament. You have to speak for Manrega workers, Asha workers. You have to translate these things into that. Number one, I still have problems with this phrase agile.
Okay, use another word. Flexible.
Give me one.
Flexible.
Flexibility and agility are not one and the same
No,
thing.
no, but I'm giving you an approximation. I gave you agility, you're not willing to
No,
accept.
flexibility, I agree. All political parties, as Priyanka said and Mahua said, we come from different background. Many political parties like us, we have come through the corridors of anti-Congressism. And I have been writing about it, that people who reduce कि आप emergency के विरोध में थे, अचानक में आप कांग्रेस के साथ क्यों हैं, तो I would ask them to read JP. JP always emphasized that it is against the authoritarian streaks of Indira ji, not Hindu per se. That's what he said. So similar situation today brings us together. Tomorrow, if my party or Mahua's party or Priyanka's party behaves in the same fashion, we'll have to realign. Thank you.
So I wanted to make 3 or 4 points, and I'll respond to you, sir, in a second. On the first one, Priyanka's point on message discipline, you talked about Parliament when Modi enters and so on. There is a serious difference in the way social media, for example, is handled by BJP across the board and other parties. One message goes, everybody tweets the same message. So there is a whole message discipline down from the
This
top
is
to
not
the booth level.
discipline.
No, sorry, I'm not saying using discipline as a praiseworthy term. I'm just talking about very stark communication discipline terms of that one message across the board. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that that's the thing. Whereas in the opposition is not like that. Rahul Gandhi tweets something, and every Congress leader does not say the same thing. Sometimes they say the opposite thing. Think about Chidambaram on EVMs recently, just this week, and Karti Chidambaram as well. On the point on the media discourse, I think the media discourse is also a bit overrated. Just 3 months ago, people were celebrating, look, the mainstream media is dead. All the alternative media is kind of won us this great victory, right? So you look at the US election, the mainstream media is irrelevant. I mean, look at around us. How many of us have watched a television debate in the evening? I mean, I've not had a TV set for 10 years or a TV subscription, right? So I think the media debate is really, really overrated in terms of influence because everybody is a media, right? So in this the US election shows us that, and I think if anything, our electorate is much more clued in to media discourses than the American electorate is. I'm talking about social media discourses, and the data shows us that. On the point on your point, sir, on the 1977 election and this one, see, 1977, and I think we will make a mistake if we think about 2004 Lok Sabha election in cataclysmic terms that 1977 was. Simply because even though the BJP had suffered a reverse, and it suffered a reverse in certain states, i.e. UP, West Bengal, to some extent Haryana, to some extent Rajasthan, in significant states it actually increased, in many states. And even where it took a backward, even where it lost, it was not getting wiped out like Congress gets wiped. It was still getting 40% of the vote, 45% of the vote. Whereas look, the 1977 election was a straight sweep on one issue. So this idea on Modi, arrogance, one nation.
Let me correct you. 77 North was swept.
Correct. South was not. South was not.
Strongly remained
Correct.
with Congress.
I agree. South was not, and Tamil Nadu and so on. But in this election, even in the South, I mean, the BJP was seen as a North Indian Hindi heartland party. You look at states in Tamil Nadu, look at Kerala, BJP's vote share significantly increased. It didn't win any seats. But BJP went up by 11%. 11% in Tamil Nadu, 3% in Kerala, Odisha, 7-8%. Even in states where it went down by 4-5% vote share, it was still 40-45% of the share. What I'm trying to say is that seat shares are, very famously a few years ago when, remember Congress almost beat BJP in Gujarat in 2017. So we were talking to some BJP leaders and they said, Congress was saying a moral victory hai. So they said, हमारी पार्टी में moral victory नहीं होता है, या तो victory है या defeat है, right? Now, so in that sense, vote share is a bit deceptive, but vote shares do tell you about an underlying strength or weakness, because seat shares can be deceptive simply because 2% vote share can give you 50 more seats, right? So it's also about local management and all that. So if you see the vote share in different states, barring the BJP expanded into many new geographies in Lok Sabha election where it wasn't, even though it suffered reverses in certain old, in its core constituencies and so on. So in the absence of a one overarching issue, see, in my view, Lok Sabha 2024 was, the BJP got a bloody nose because the opposition was united. It was more the index of opposition unity than anything else. The moment that starts fracturing, you are fighting a party which in 11, 12 Hindi heartland states has an automatic 35 to 40, 42% vote in most seats. At least 33% to hai, 33 or 34%. So uske, if you are divided, only when you are together, then in UP that's what happened. No? Congress got a very small percentage of the vote, fought with SP, and look at the number of seats they won. You divide that and it changes. So my limited point is that it's not, the moment you fracture that opposition unity, the BJP is still strong enough and the opposition is not strong enough yet to topple it.
समर्थन करूं या विरोध
कुछ भी करिए.
नहीं
Mahua ji, you can take any of these questions, but also please answer this question on fracturing of opposition. Why does one get the impression that your leader, Mamata Banerjee, always takes a sort of a unique position on everything? Let's take the Adani issue. To say that this issue is not as important as the 5 issues she's listed. She could easily say, Mr. Adani's promised 10,000 crore investment from the state over 10 years. He's going to make part of he's going to invest in the Tajpur deep sea port. So, or some excuse, say that he's not been charged, he's not been found guilty as yet, as in the Louis Berger case where they had admitted bribery, or in the Cognizant case. Why beat around the bush and always try and be a maverick?
Look, there have been many leaders, starting from Pranab Mukherjee to P. Chidambaram, to many great leaders from the Congress, including Mr. Pawar, who stepped out and formed their own party. Mamata Banerjee hasn't got where she is. She's a third-time chief minister. She left the Congress at the height of their power, please understand. She has survived everything, fought 34 years, come to power. You don't do that by not becoming a maverick. You don't sit there by dotting your I's and crossing your T's. So she is unique, and that's why she does what she believes is unique. And that's very important to understand. She is perhaps the only person who has survived out of the Congress, come out of the Congress ecosystem and lived to tell the tale, and has got stronger with every election. So she's doing something right, A. Second, this idea that we must all be this homogeneous, I think we don't even understand. And certainly I find social commentators and the media, even people who we think are fringe media or PLUs, people like us, we don't understand how much we've been brainwashed by the BJP. Because every time we repeat the narrative that, oh, those guys are united in one thing. You're not. I don't, exactly what Manoj Ji said. I don't want to be united where every morning I will have 2 Muppets sitting there and giving one lie on WhatsApp and 20,000 other Muppets being paid to amplify it. I'm sorry, that's not the ecosystem that we need to build in India. That's not important. Whether it's the Congress, we don't need to even, I'm not speaking for the Congress, I'm not in the Congress, but even in the TMC, Mamata ji will say something, I may say something else. India is a room of thinking people. In the opposition, we are parties that respect Indians' thinking power. If everybody in the BJP from top to bottom are singing the same tune, where are people getting an idea of thinking about different things? I mean, I'm not saying anything. If I'm saying something which may be different from what Mamata ji is saying, it's not necessarily that we are anti-party. And it's not that we're saying we're looking at a situation from different ways. For on the EVM issue, some people feel very strongly about the EVM issue that they can be hacked. I say that, I would like VVPAT 100%, and I went to court on that. I would like VVPAT verification 100%. I don't know if they can or they can't be hacked. I haven't seen enough proof either way. But I do think that the issue is serious enough that it merits the Supreme Court to tell us. I filed a petition saying that we want 100%. The reason that the Election Commission gave was it will take 3 days to and I agree with Elon Musk when he says that, California still doesn't have its results. And so what? When we are talking about the integrity of the electoral process in the world's largest democracy, what is 3 days? What is 3 days? Right? So I think that these different voices make us all think. And we don't want to be black and white. I actually think that that's the great thing about the alliance. As in terms of Adani, we are not talking in, again, she's not beating around the bush. I have been one of the first people. I've been expelled from parliament because of Adani buying out the CBI, the ED and the BJP, and I'm back with a bang. So, I don't think anyone in the TMC, Mamata Banerjee gave me the ticket the day I was expelled and came to campaign for me. So if she thought that she had been bought out by any of them, the Tajpur court, we've signed an LOA, but nothing is happening on that. It is not that we have not said that we are not within the Adanis. I'm going out fighting on them every day, as is our party. What we have said is this. Modi is Adani and Adani is Modi. Every time we ask for a discussion on Adani, it's like asking for a discussion on Modi. He'll never give it. And this government is so shameless, they will go for 40 days. We have seen this 3-4 years ago in the Lok Sabha, where an entire budget session, entire monsoon session was wiped out and they didn't give it.
200 members suspended.
Do you remember that? Do you remember so many people? Priyanka was outside on the statue for 15 days, if I remember, eating and sleeping there, if I remember correctly. So we have seen this. So they are not going to give an election. So our point is this. Rather than go on one issue and stall parliament, whatever it is we can get to speak on, we can speak on. If there's a debate on constitution, nobody's asking us, nobody's stopping us from speaking on all issues there. So we've said there are other issues. Sambal is a very important issue. People in this country are not realizing we have a Place of Worship Act 1991 that says August 47, what the status of the place of worship was, that is sacrosanct. You cannot have a Sanghi judge in a trial court sitting there and saying, oh, isko khodo, isko khodo, isko khodo. Then every Hindu temple may have been built on a Buddhist stupa. Where do we end? Yes. Where is the end of this? There's no end to this, right? So here we have this. We saw in Manipur the problem was caused by an ex-party order out of the Manipur High Court. So very often you have mischief makers in the judiciary. And the BJP, frankly, has tied the judiciary in such a way for the next 10 years, they're controlling many courts. So these are very important things. And the idea that the opposition must beat the BJP. If they have 56 inches, we must have 57 inches. No, we don't. We might have a 22-inch person which is taking on 56 inches. I don't want that kind of machismo, megalomania, and we're not going to fight like for like. That number one. Number two, as terms is we need a thinking discourse. And if different parties, if Manoj Ji, Priyanka, I, and our leaders in our parties, we don't necessarily have to agree with the Congress. We've all come out of the Congress. But the basic sticking to fundamental principles is the same, and we can have a stand on different things. In this room, you can have people thinking about it. As long as we are providing a platform for thinking people to think about it. What we need to be better at is getting it in the vernacular. That's very like Samvidhan khatre mein hai. But to explain to everybody कि कैसे खतरे में है. और अगर आपका neighbor के साथ क्या हुआ, कल आपके साथ हो सकता है. This is something, BJP does this very well. Like a friend of mine went to Gujarat and there were no Muslims in that area. And they said, किस लिए BJP को वोट दे रहे? वो मुसलमान आके हमको खा जाएंगे. आपने तो कभी मुसलमान देखा ही नहीं. पर है. Do you understand? So this fear of the unknown, which they do very well. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but this idea of where it can translate into something that people can relate to on a more positive something is something that we need to do. Thanks.
Thank you. But why blame the sessions judges as being Sanghi when the top man sitting in the
he's
Supreme
talking
Court,
to God, what do I say?
Yeah, no, not only talking to God, but he's the one who's opened the Pandora's box and made a mess of everything.
No, but it's
nobody
an endemic thing. It's not just
Okay.
from one person.
All right,
It's
all
an
right.
endemic
Now,
thing.
I'm not going to summarize what these learned commentators have said. We'll open this session to questions. No lectures, please, no comments, just specific questions, and direct your questions to the person you would like that question to be answered by. Yep. No, just a minute, ma'am, the one behind you. Ma'am, just hold on a minute. There's somebody behind.
Hi.
No. We are recording it. So.
Hi, my name is Ayush. Should I?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, my question is for Priyanka specifically, but also to the panel. A few days ago, Yogendra Yadav wrote a piece in the Indian Express where he said that the election results of Maharashtra, there is something fishy. What it is, he says he doesn't know, but something doesn't seem right. Priyanka, does your party share that assessment? And B, does anybody on the panel share that assessment?
So can I just say that, this is an out of syllabus question in the sense that we are discussing the impact of these results on national politics.
No, no,
But if
I
people
agree
want to
with
answer
this question. It's very much a part of the
Fine.
narrative.
So go ahead and
No,
answer.
I totally believe, and I say this for Maharashtra because in Maharashtra, like I started my initial comments, I was, doing Jan Sabhas, addressing various constituencies, and none of the constituency gave me that sentiment that we are not going to vote for you. There could be some feeling of Larki Behan helping them, etc., but it wasn't the case. However, there are 4-5 points. I don't know what, I haven't read Yogendra Yadavji's comments, but I'll give you a few indicators that make us believe that there could be more transparency in the system. For example, the election announcement getting delayed. For them to be able to implement Ladki Behan scheme for a quarter, so that women start to believe that agar yahi rahenge, to bhi hame, we'll get that money. That's one. The second question, and I'm not challenging the Election Commission, but these are some discrepancies that can be better handled by the Election Commission. We had been indicating to them about voter deletions happening. Voters that are registered voters were deleted systematically from various booths. The third point, sticking point that I feel, is the voter turnout changing so drastically, and we've given comparisons, 2014, 2019, 2024. There's a huge upsurge of voters coming out. I'll give you one small example. 50 assembly seats had seen a turnout of more than 50,000 voters per assembly seat as compared to the Lok Sabha elections. And out of those 50 seats, 47 have been won by Mahayuti. So you see an upsurge of voters, and then you see a number which is so, while I would have understood 100, 120 seats, the washout is something is hard to fathom. And it is, I think Election Commission did call the Congress party for that, and they've had a discussion on this, booth-wise data they've asked for. Hopefully there'll be more transparency that way.
The lady here.
I want to say that in 2004, I was an independent candidate from the New Delhi parliamentary constituency, and I went around in my constituency and I asked them, I said, listen, how would you vote for a different candidate from one party to another? They said, क्या बताएं, ये तो सारे एक ही हैं, एक ही झुंड के हैं, हमको पैसा भी देते हैं, दारू भी देते हैं, अब हम लोग कैसे परख करें इनकी? So I want to ask the group that Alliance has just now started, would you as a group get together and woo the minorities, the Christians, the Muslims, and every other minority in the country? Would you get together, woo them, and then maybe they'll be on your part, and you would probably win the election next time?
There is no point saying it, woo them.
Woo.
Woo them. No. That's your duty.
Don't give them
That's
money.
your constitutional mandate. If you don't do it, you are actually betraying your oath. That's what it is.
Ruben.
Is there some reflection on parties becoming family affair? Is there a danger that you inherit all the sins, and it's very easy to show you the mirror that this thing was done wrong by your forefathers or leaders? So, is there any reflection on this aspect at all?
Not much of a question, so
Yeah,
if somebody wants to answer it.
I mean,
Radha?
Thank you. I just have one question for all three of our party speakers, which is, can we expect any joint campaign from you on any issue whatsoever? In Parliament, out of Parliament, as Alliance, not as Alliance?
I think we are already doing that in the Parliament in terms of the Adani issue, the indictment in the US courts. Of course, the Sambhal issue is something that Samajwadi Party is also taking up. Ajmer, now we've heard there's another masjid that they've given orders to dig into. So but the question should be, like, while you were saying woo the minorities, I would say it is time for the Hindus to understand that if there is unemployment, there are 8 Hindu homes which are suffering the unemployment. Everyone going and fighting for their religion and living in this fear. that we do not have, something bad can go wrong if minorities take charge or minorities are assertive. I think Hindus need to realize that they're being driven towards I would say, a deep end of believing that fighting for your religion is the only thing you have to do.
And I do think that, every single day, every single day the opposition parties inside Parliament and outside Parliament are fighting for issues that are important. For example, just listen to Question Hour in Parliament one single day. Today, if you listen to Question Hour in Parliament, you saw in one day we raised the issue of privatization of airports being handed over to people. We raised the issue of Employees Provident Fund. We raised the issue of Manrega dues not being paid to people. So every single day, when, day before yesterday, there was the banking amendment where people talked about all the issues. So yeah, I think the opposition is doing there's this idea, again, that somehow I think it's time that we ourselves lift ourselves out of this abyss where we tend to think that, the BJP is doing everything right because they're, drinking this sort of muscle juice every morning, and the opposition, we don't want to be that. That's not our style. And I think we're addressing all the issues inside Parliament and outside Parliament.
एक चीज, Radha ji, what you said, I agree. Both my colleagues have responded to this. Parliament session is for very limited time. 8-10 initial days goes in adjournments. Then the ice breaks. Whether it breaks or it appears to be breaking, that's a different issue. But on streets, we need more of a unified campaign. And there, again, don't trust only political parties to do it.
Yep.
Well, we actually are very active on our part.
I know that. I know that.
But sometimes there are language issues and all. For example, like with regional parties, I'll tell you honestly, it's very difficult for us for Bengali speakers, if we say Samajwadi come and campaign for us, with the best of intentions, it's very difficult. For us, we can't go campaign in Tamil Nadu. With regional parties in different states, language and relatability are very different. It's difficult sometimes to do joint political campaigns. On social issues, it's far easier. There are certain logistical issues. I've seen that ourselves with, doing campaigns. Like in Maharashtra, if you ask us to do, nobody's going to listen to us there.
My name is Ashwini Gupta. I'm a retired officer of State Bank of India, and I have experience of freelancing for the media and working for NGOs. I have a very practical consensus suggestion which goes above political party differences. 3 honorable MPs are sitting here. Can't they invite citizens to give their names for contributing their expertise like a think tank for these 3 individual MPs? Like think tanks or citizens' participation, ideas, information, briefing, writing speeches. I would be happy to volunteer.
Very good. Thank you. Paranjay. Yeah, come.
मनोज जी, आपके लिए एक सवाल है सर। आप जैसे भारत भूषण ने कहा, फ्रीबी शब्द, रेवरी शब्द आपत्तिजनक है, मगर आप लोग जब बड़े बड़े पूंजीपति को लाखों करोड़ों रुपया का कर्ज माफ़ी कर देते हैं, आप जो आपका इंसॉल्वेंसी एंड बैंक्रप्सी कोड हेयर कट कर देते हैं, ये चुनावी मुद्दा आप क्यों नहीं बना?
थैंक यू। आप हेयर कट की बात कर रहे हैं, मैंने इसके लिए पार्लियामेंट में कहा था ये गंजा करने की पद्धति है, कट नहीं है, गंजा कर दो। तो सर वही एक इशू है व्हाट यू हैव रेज्ड, दैट पहली बात आपने कहा माफ़ कर देते हैं कि इतने करोड़ों रुपए। सर हम तो वहाँ बैठे ही नहीं हैं माफ़ करने वालों की श्रेणी में, हम तो अपोजिशन बेंच पे हैं, विरोध करते हैं, लेकिन बड़े ताकतवर लोग हैं। आई अग्री विद द फैक्ट व्हेन आई से वर्नाकुलराइजेशन ऑफ दीज इश्यूज, इवन ऑन अडानी इशू, आई बिलीव इफ यू से अडानी, हिंडनबर्ग, दिस अटॉर्नी इन यूएस, इट डजंट वर्क। हमें अपना बचपना यूथ याद आता है, गली गली में शोर है, इंदिरा गांधी चोर है। मतलब लोग ये स्लोगन लगाते थे। आज मुझे बुरा लगता है कि, और बुरा के अलावा लगता है कि आज अगर कोई लगा दे तो उस पर तो एनएसए लगेगा, यूएपीए लग जाएगा, वो अंदर हो जाएगा। यू हैव टू, जैसे एक आपको मैं दूसरा उदाहरण दूं, इसको हम फ्रेमिंग कहते हैं सोशल मूवमेंट की भाषा में। हर जोर जुल्म की टक्कर में संघर्ष हमारा नारा है। ये डायलेक्टिक्स समझाता है लेकिन कितनी आसानी से हमारी अपनी पद्धति भी, as a political party, even intellectuals, they have not evolved better frames to communicate. That's our failure. Thank you.
Javed.
With the greatest respect, I think this whole discussion has gone along a totally wrong track. It's mostly about elections and political parties, while the whole country is seeping with hate, poisonous hate. I think what we have to do really is all of us is to co-opt spiritual, religious, social leaders to talk about tolerance. And
I agree.
secularism is a cliche. We have to talk about tolerance. And this talk about elections and politics is irrelevant in a way. I think we should really start with campaigning at the Kumbh Mela, where 400 million, 40 crore people will be there, and we should campaign for tolerance. What is
I
it called?
agree.
Bhaichara and Bahanchara.
I agree.
Very good, Peter.
Totally agree.
45.
Who else have to go? All right. The gentleman here. We'll take one more question after this, and then we'll close this session. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye. I'm sorry, some of our panelists had to leave early.
Yeah. I promise to stay back.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sarabjit Chatwal. I'm an international banker. I was just wanting to comment on this discussion of flexibility and agility and what you need to be to try to beat the BJP. I think the issue is not about flexibility or agility. The issue is that they are good tactically and they are ruthless when it needs to be. So what's clearly missing is a good sense of what's happening on the ground. Yeah. And I think the guilty people who are whispering into the ears of the biggest party are sitting in clouds. They're not on the ground, not tactical, not ruthless. So I don't know what the plan is. When you have lessons to be learned, how can you be more tactical? How can you be more ruthless? If you want to be in politics, then you have to be ruthless. There's no use saying we are not like them.
No, basically it's like the hunger to win.
Yeah. And another comment, very quick one. Mahua was saying we don't want to be like that. This is not what we want to be. It doesn't matter what you want to be. It's irrelevant. Yeah. What's relevant is what will it take to communicate and what does the people want and how can you fashion that? Yeah. So it's a very lofty idea. We don't want to have, one voice, Modi, Modi, Modi. We don't want to. It doesn't matter what you want to be. You're not being effective right now. That's the point.
Okay. Prasanji.
But I'll want to make a comment on that after he's spoken.
I had a simple question. We hear
simple questions are the toughest to answer.
No, I just wanted to say that no political party, after 2004, has talked about bread and butter issues. Yeah, price rise, inflation, the salaries, joblessness, or anything. The last time anybody spoke about it must have been Mr. Modi when he was saying that, corruption is eating away at this. No. Don't these matter to the voters at all?
No, I totally disagree with you on this front. Yeah. We have been consistently fighting on these issues. Like I just mentioned, we need to be telling the flag bearers of Bharatiya Janata Party that before saving the Dharm Seva homes, if there are 10 unemployed youth, 8 of them would be from Hindu homes. So we are talking about unemployment, we are talking about price rise, we are talking about, for example, I come from the state of Maharashtra, which is a highly industrialized state. We are seeing industries go out of my state. That we have come to a point where Marathas are asking for reservation and they're agitating over it. So we are consistently talking. The point is, maybe people are tuning into what Modi is talking. So that's one part. And to your question, to your comments, I totally agree with you. There has to be agility. Though there was disagreement here, there has to be a need to understand that what people want to hear from you, the reassurance they seek from you, and the ability to show that we have the capacity to fight. For example, the Lok Sabha elections were a larger cause because even the BJP made it easier with the candidates saying, "Hum to Samvidhan badal denge." It was said on various platforms. So that reinforced our narrative that, yes, this is what they're looking for. Now, in this particular case, for example, Haryana, for example, Maharashtra, we kind of, I think what Nalin was saying, I quite agree with him, we continue to speak on the same narrative. We need to understand that Lok Sabha elections, assembly elections are two different ballgame, and we need to be catering more to a local audience and what their expectation of us is. And that I am totally in agreement. Shiv Sena, UBT had the hunger to fight. But maybe we were not able to convince them, where they felt कि चलो हमने लोक सभा में we've taught Modi ji a lesson, that he cannot get away by breaking parties, breaking away families. We've taught them a lesson. What are you offering to them in the assembly elections? That I think anyone who's foolhardy to believe, no, this is the way we are going on and this is the way we will continue, it's a recipe for disaster.
That's why I said,
So yes, there's an agility, and you sometimes have to play by their rules, beat them at their game, and then set your own rules. That's what I believe in.
Yeah, all right. Okay, I apologize to people who still want to ask questions because we have to end this session. So I hand over the stage to Shuma.
So may I now request the Media Foundation Treasurer, Jananta Chaturvedi, to please come and give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Shuma. On me falls the very pleasant task of thanking all of your audience and our distinguished panelists, Priyanka Chaturvedi, Manoj Jha, Nalin Mehta, Mahua Moitra, and of course, our anchor for the evening, Bharat Bhushan. I think it was a wonderful discussion. A wonderful audience was here to listen to it. Questions were raised on new political moves which are coming up, on long-standing challenges to the Indian polity. It was also noted that there has been a return to the collective as far as Indian polity is concerned. On the one hand, you are now stressing on NDA, on the other hand, on the India narrative. It's not individual parties which are that important, it is the collective. On that note, thank you all once again. I hope we have another. Yes, of course. I have to thank the India International Center, which is our joint partner, for having given you this wonderful lecture. And thank you, IIC, for being a wonderful host and for partnering us so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.